I am so excited about this session, The Conscious Consumer. I think it's going to be a really great dialogue. And we have some incredible partners of ours in this event as well. This next panelist is going to be led by Erica, whose company EMRG Media is our event sponsor. And fellow panelist Cate Luzio is an event sponsor as well. We're really, really thrilled for you ladies to be here today. I'll let you guys take it away and hand it over to Erica now. But for everyone on the line, don't forget, we'll be using that Q&A box. So if you have questions for our beautiful panelists, feel free to enter them there and we will save time at the end. Without further ado, Erica, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks so much, Emily. And I'm so excited to be joining this conversation, which is such an empowering one. So I have some really amazing panelists that I love to kind of introduce you to. So I'm going to kick off with Cate Luzio. She's the CEO and founder of Luminary. She's basically a premier collaboration hub for women who are passionate about professional development and expanding their networks. She has a 15,000 square foot meeting space in New York City, which includes all of the amenities that you could think of. Luminary is the ultimate career advocate, offering members unparalleled programming from office hours with dynamic leaders to pioneer speaking series. A longtime advocate for empowering women and girls, Cate serves the National Boards of Girls, Inc. She has over 20 years of leadership in the financial sector, and we are so thrilled to welcome here. She has been named one of the most powerful women in banking, list by American Banker multiple times, and she has also been named 2019 Female Founder 100 list and has been featured in Financial Times, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, but I could go on for days. So I would like to welcome her and just say we're so thankful to have her. And then I'm going to introduce Alexis. So just wanted to say welcome. And Alexis, I'm now going to introduce you. Alexis Schulze, she's the co-founder of Nekter Juice Bar, a chief visionary officer of Nekter Juice Bar, a modern lifestyle brand devoted to empowering and inspiring communities to pursue well-being. Alexis leads the company's research and development efforts to create delicious and nutrient-rich juices, smoothies, acai, and so much more. She has 20 years of experience working with children, both preschool and elementary settings. She has her master's degree. So once again, I'm so excited to have her here as she makes an impact and changes the world of health. Thanks so much, Alexis. And last but not least, we have Calla Rongerude, who is the director of To Open All, with more than 15 years of nonprofit experience creating and implementing national and state level communications and public education campaigns on a wide array of issues, ranging from arts, higher education, equality, and civil rights. She's worked extensively in coalitions, including the Civil Rights Group, businesses and labor unions, faith leaders, and advocate organizations. She started her career in book and publishing industry, where she specialized in news-driven marketing communication campaigns that positioned authors as experts. Yelp and Open to All participants announced in 2018 as searchable for consumers in 2019. Thank you, ladies, for being here today. I'm so thrilled to have this conversation. So I would love to kick off with Alexis. Alexis, tell us a little bit about you that I didn't highlight in that intro.
Oh boy. Well, I think one of the things I love talking about is just how, I was an elementary teacher kind of focusing on a completely different world and then kind of got thrown into this juice world with such a passion. But in order to then run a business, I had to sort of grow up as a person. So like my professional growth had to sort of mirror, all of a sudden I'm a boss and I'm running business. So I think that those aspects of growth aren't always spoken about in a business setting, but I think that finding your voice and standing up for what you believe in and all those things when it is your business or when you are in a position to have a voice within a business is such an important part. So I love talking about that.
It's so important, Alexis. And that's why we're here today, is to really find that voice and to let people know what your voice stands for. So Cate, I'd love to hear a little bit about you other than what I shared, which was so much.
Well, it's great to be here. And today's equal pay day. right? So kind of to Alexis's point, we've got to start asking for more, demanding for more, and advocating for those that aren't in the room with us when we're doing that, whether that comes to fundraising, to financing, or even getting a promotion or a raise. And as you mentioned, Eric, I spent almost 20 years in corporate investment banking. Before that, tech, and 2.5 years ago, I decided to leave a very stable lifestyle and enter the world of entrepreneurship. And the whole reason I created Luminary was with a mission to advance women in the workforce, something that I was passionate about for all of the years that I spent in corporate America. And how do we invest in women earlier and more often? How do we promote them? And then tied to that is this idea of the enormous amount of small businesses out there and entrepreneurs and founders that are women, and how do we make sure they are also a success? And how we do that is really democratizing access to resources and tools and opportunities, which is a great example of what this summit is doing, but really tied to what Luminary is offering and why we exist. And it's never been more critical than now, with 5.4 million women out of the workforce. More than 25% of women-owned businesses in the United States have closed permanently. And 2.1 million women aren't even looking for jobs right now, given the unnecessary and unequal burdens on them. So we have got to come together collectively with men and make this change. It's now or never.
I mean, did you guys hear those stats? I mean, they're really, really, on another level of what is now going on. And that's why supporting businesses that are important to you is really important, and how you can even make a more impactful change in today's economy and society. Calla, I would love to pass it to you now. I mean, you have so much to say and offer about this open program and so forth. And I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more than what I shared when we first introed you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me and including Open to All on this amazing panel and this incredible summit. You know, I'm a book nerd who fell into politics, honestly. I mean, I started out as a bookseller and then in independent publishing. And I've really always been drawn to lifting up voices and stories of the underrepresented. And we all know that women have a way of getting their voices lost. Sometimes I feel like we're whispering into the wind when we try to create change. If you look at how our country has tried so hard to advance equality, gender equality, and we just keep getting backtracked. And I think the time has come for us to really harness our collective power and really create meaningful, true equality. So part of our work at Open to All really is about making sure that everyone is safe, welcome, valued, and respected. Not just the customer that walks through a door, but the employee, the freelancer, the vendor, that everyone can be their full selves at work, especially, women of color, women with disabilities, LGBTQ women, trans women, like really looking at a way where we can be our full selves and be welcome and respected and revered. And so that's how Open to All was born. We were seeing all these instances where people were being refused service or discriminated against. And instead of collecting all the stories of the harms that people experience, we partnered with businesses because that's where so much innovation is happening. Bold risk-taking is happening, especially in the small business community. And we're trying to aspire to create this inclusive world. And it's been the most inspiring role I've ever had in my life, professionally and personally.
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more, and thank you for sharing that. When you think of conscious consumerism, is that here to stay? And what really speaks to you about that?
Well, I think it absolutely is here to stay. And I have some stats, and I want to also share some incredible shifts in just the last couple of years. So right now, this is according to Edelman, 64% of consumers choose, switch, avoid, or boycott a brand based on its stance on societal issues. And nearly 2/3 of Millennial Gen Z express a preference for brands that have a point of view and stand for something. And we all know, the younger the consumer, the longer we'll be working with them. Now, this is just from 3 years ago. In 2018, actually 2019, 33% of consumers were choosing to buy from brands they believe are doing social or environmental good. This is from Cantor. Another stat from that same study, 3 years ago, 35% of Americans think a company's reputation is just as important as the products it makes and has purchased a product more than once because of this reason. Morning Consult just released new stats. These numbers have doubled. So it's no longer 33 and 35%. These are in the mid to high 60s. Now, consumers want to support brands and businesses that align with their values, especially around sustainability and equality and inclusion. And the younger they are, they're more likely they feel this way. And so if we want longevity with our customers, that's definitely the way to go.
It's really important. And I'd love to throw it to Alexis to expand onto that. When you think of the conscious consumerism, like what does that mean to you and how do you implement that in your business?
I mean, I think there's so many aspects, right? It is the inclusion that Calla was talking about. It's, having integrity within the brand, what you're offering to people. I think through and through, are you truly aligned with the morals and the integrity of who you are as a person? And then does that run through your brand? Does it run out to your employees? Are you showing that? Are you explaining, for me, holding true to, a lot of the products I use, everything we put in our stores has to be something I would put in my body personally. And I think that consumers want to be able to trust a brand, to know that, we're doing the work for you. We're making sure what we're offering is, I'm reading the labels for you. So, if you buy a snack at Nekter, that like what we're putting in our smoothies is whole real foods. And that integrity, I think, is what people are looking for, from a nutritional standpoint. But then how does that overlap into, are we supporting our employees? Are we, supporting our communities through, supporting the charities within the schools? I mean, there's so many aspects that you could look at, like, where does the consciousness, how we can be conscious in a lot of ways. So like, let's do it.
And I think it's so important for what you said, right? Because, in speaking with you, you said the importance of having the good, wholesome nutrition, and that you're really emphasizing that because you want people to feel good about themselves.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big part. If you don't feel good physically, it's really hard to then go out and chase your day. And a lot of us, especially working moms, it's like, that's kind of where it came from with juicing. It was like, I didn't have time to stop and eat a salad or get healthy food in me. So if I could grab a juice, I had the energy to fulfill my day and not feel like, I'd slump at 3:00 and then not be there for my family or, be able to do what I needed to do. So it is a big piece.
No, well, thank you for sharing, because the audience really needs to know that. And I love to throw it to Cate. I mean, you shared something, Cate, that I thought was so interesting, that you do not require membership. There's not an application for membership. It's open, as Calla would say, to all. So talk to us a little bit about that and the importance of why you think the conscious consumerism, pertains to that.
It kind of goes to everything that Calla and Alexis said. When I set out to build Luminary, there was a mission in mind, right? And there were values that I have that I wanted to surround myself with. I wanted to create something purposeful and intentional and diverse. I wanted to create a community, both physically and now, because of the pandemic and in a silver linings way, digitally and now global, right? I wanted to create something that was a community where women across 3 professional journeys had access to, as well as men, right? So we don't just focus on women, we welcome men, and that was important. So women in the professional journeys of workforce, of entrepreneurship, of being in transition. And for me, a community doesn't exclude anyone. A community breaks down barriers to bring people together, to break down those silos. And so from the day we launched in early 2019, we said there'd be no application process. I didn't want to exclude anyone. If someone wanted to be part of this community that we were creating, this company, then by all means, I want them and I want to help them, and we want to help each other. It talks, again, exactly what Alexis and Calla were talking about. Really building something that's open to all, not just focusing on the dollars, and really removing all of these barriers that women have to entry. Why do we need yet another one? And that has really sort of accelerated who we are and how we support women multi-generationally, intersectionally, and across all of those three professional journeys that I talked about. We cannot do this by excluding. And we also have to make things economically available to all. And so by having different tiers of membership and access and ways to connect and be part of our programming and understand who we are, that's been really important to not just who I am, but to this idea of conscious consumerism, right? Making things that are available, democratizing access. I will say that over and over. We have so many communities that don't have access to things, right? So why create another barrier to that access?
It's so important. It's so true. And, we thank you for creating that opportunity for the women, right? So that they don't have barriers. So would you say that conscious consumerism is here to stay?
Absolutely. I think in this past year, regardless of what you do, what your background is, if you're running a company, if you're working in a company, if you're a working mom, the playing field has been leveled. And now, particularly after June of last year with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the Black Lives Matter, now with the Asian Pacific community being, terrorized in a sense, you now can actually hold companies, small, medium, and large, accountable. You can, I say it, vote with your dollars, right? You can choose who you want to support. You can look at their board. Are they practicing what they're preaching about diversity? You can look at the brand and the brand alignment. Are they living up to what they're saying? And I think anybody that is living in this time, whether you're a Gen Xer like me, all the way to the Gen Z, you've got to vote with your dollars. You've got to look at the mission and the values of that company and why they exist, and either align yourself to them or not. And I think that we need to hold these brands accountable. We need to continue to look back at what they're saying and what they're doing, and make the conscious decision on whether you shop with them, whether that's a product or a service.
No, that's 100% correct. And I'd love to pass it to Calla to see your thoughts on this. Is it here to stay?
I think it absolutely is here to stay. And I think Cate made so many really, really valid points. And something, open to all. I mean, I can just anecdotally, we started in 2018 with half a dozen businesses. Probably our most innovative partner to date has been Yelp, and I don't see that changing. And now we're at 500,000, and a lot of that is because we are seeing such leadership from small, medium, and large businesses, and we are working together to create a movement to have a common language. What does it mean to be open to all? And really, the fact that we have grown from half a dozen to 500,000 in 3 years. One of those years was 2020, and we all know what 2020 did to all of us. The fact that we've been able to grow that much and have the consumer support, the emails, the social media posts that we get from customers about supporting businesses that align with their values, this growth is not this is not a blip. This is a trend that I don't see petering out anytime soon.
I agree with you. And I believe Alexis agrees too, but I'd love to hear your thought on it, because we're almost at that 10-minute mark where we're going to open it up for questions from the audience. And I know that you guys are like, how did we get through it so fast? So Alexis, talk to us. Is it here to stay, and why?
Absolutely. I mean, gosh, these ladies are so intelligent with all these incredible stats. And I mean, you cannot argue with any of that. And I'm just the hippie juice bar owner over here. But I mean, we're all, I hope, kind of going with more a heart-centered, I'm going to talk like a hippie now, but like we want things that feel good to us, right? So like businesses that align with our values. And I think that's beautiful, that this should be the movement, right? We're doing things that feel good to us, that when you support a business, you feel good. It's not just the product you're purchasing. It's actually like that integrity that, anytime you do anything good, there's this beautiful reward, right? And I think that we have to go this way. We have to. We have no choice.
No, it's completely necessary, right? That is the movement. That's where we are. It's going to be here to stay. And if you're not on the train, you're going to be left behind because other people are going to be emphasizing that. So we have 10 minutes and we're going to be opening up questions to the audience. So we're going to be funneling those questions to you. So I just want to let everyone know who's watching. If you have questions for each of these wonderful women, now is your chance to kind of get those answered. So I don't want you guys to miss out on that. So the first question, I'm going to throw it to Calla. How do you engage conscious consumers surrounding sensitive subjects like domestic violence while remaining upbeat and positive?
Well, I think we really talk about aspirational, like coming from a point of view of the world that we want to create, where everyone can live, work, go about their daily lives free from harassment, free from violence. And so it's having those positive goals, acknowledging the pain, but really talking about coming together and what is it going to take to make these changes. And honestly, when you're doing this work in collaboration and in community, and if you visit opentoall.com, you'll see, or yelp.com, you'll see all of the businesses that are engaged. And there's such power in community. You feel like you can do wonderful, amazing things if you're working together. If you're working in isolation, it's overwhelming. So I really do think it's the fact that we're creating a movement. There are days, Atlanta last week, with the racism and misogyny of those murders that break all of our hearts. But I was on the phone all morning with Asian Americans advancing justice, talking about how we're going to address this anti-AAPI hate. And I just left feeling inspired. So it's mending our hearts through community and collaboration.
Can I add to that, Erica? I love what Calla said. I mean, it's also so much about having open dialogue. And we also have to get comfortable with it being uncomfortable. Right? Not every one of us have been in some of these situations. As a woman, I face discrimination, but I'm not a Black woman or a Latinx woman. I'm not a trans woman, but I face discrimination, but I don't know how it feels to be in other scenarios. One of the things that we have done and that we do on a regular basis at Luminary is really have these open community conversations, safe spaces where people can say how they're feeling, where they can ask questions, where there's no judgment, right? So having those sensitive topics covered, some of those with an experienced facilitator, some of those not, right? Because I think as a community, you have to stand up for one another. You have to be there to support. And it is so important as we've seen this past year to support others, whether that be culturally, small businesses, just anyone, women that have left the workforce because they cannot handle everything on their plates, those that have been displaced. And I think this idea of open dialogue and not a lot of bullshit. Let's break through the bullshit and actually have real conversations around how we correct this behavior and keep moving forward in creating a fair and just and equitable society for all, not just one.
And just to echo what you just said, Cate, it takes a community to make change, right? It can't be one or two. It's a collective, unified process to really impact that difference. It's really, really important. And I would love to pass a question to Alexis, because we talked a little bit about this before, and I'd love for you to share with the audience. How do you think about influencers pertaining to your business, and how do you utilize them from a conscious consumerism perspective?
Well, I mean, it's definitely, everything's gone so much to social media, right? So then you need to kind of take a step back as a company and say, are we representing everyone, right? Are we including all people, which we recently had to do? It's like, I think, most of our photos were, people holding a juice, and it was just, the social media director would grab her best friends and put them all together, and we were not representative. And so it is an interesting thing. And I think that it's just something as you're moving along, maybe because we're all so busy and in 20 different directions as business owners, that until it's in your face, you're like, oh my gosh, we really need to be focusing on being representative of every single person that's coming into our juice bar. Needs to be able to assimilate and, somehow recognize everyone is included at Nekter Juice Bar. We want that. So it's just something I think, again, if you're not paying attention, now's the time. More than ever,
It definitely now's the time. And I'll bring that back to Calla. So how do you make consumers feel brand pride? What do you do at Open to All?
I think that what the biggest thing we do is offer resources to businesses about what does it mean to be open to all, because we're trying to establish a common language and also recognize that these are steps on a journey. None of us know how to do this intrinsically. We have to learn. And so we partner with Yelp and package different resources and send them out to small businesses. And a lot of this is developed with big corporate partners that we can then share with the small business community about everything from how do you serve a customer with a disability authentically? If you want to engage around Black Lives Matter, how can you best do that? It's Women's History Month. How can you do that? Like really trying to give resources, because what we know is that you have to have a certain level of information to be able to be inclusive. And we know customers are seeking. They want to have pride in the brands that they're supporting and the businesses that they're supporting. We offer resources to both. Right now, it's businesses. We're actually going to be launching something for customers this summer, later this year, to teach them, basically how to identify and support these businesses that align with their values. So we train the customer and the business to work together in this relationship.
And that's really important with what you just said, which is information to be inclusive. If you don't ask that question and you don't ask the user, right, then you cannot incorporate that and become a more open to all situation. So I think that's really important. I love to pass it to Cate and see your thoughts on how do you make consumers feel brand pride and what are you guys doing to achieve that?
So, I think it comes down to authenticity. I feel like we are at 2 years old, we are and have been as authentic as we possibly can be, sharing the goods and the bad with our members, which are our community. As I mentioned earlier, not having an application process, having a scholarship program for people that can't afford to be a member of Luminary, opening up all of our programming for the entire month of March to anyone in the world, because we want people to have access. We also want people to shop from the 50% of our members that are small business owners, right? So those that are selling a product or a service. We also want to represent others that aren't part of our community, right? It doesn't have to be just us. We can be one piece of the puzzle. We can be one piece of the pie. There's a huge pie to go around. And so I think for me as a leader and as someone who spent many, many, many years in corporate America, learning how to build a business authentically and understanding that at the heart of it, the customer is the most important, right? My first job in banking, and I think I told you this, Erica, my first job in banking, every single doorway had think of yourself as a customer over it. So you couldn't walk anywhere in any building around the world that didn't have that. It was every building. And so it was ingrained in you, right? Treat your customers the way you would want to be treated. Represent your brand the way you would want to see a brand as a customer. And I think that's what we're doing. I think also just representing other communities that aren't even part of us, right? We talk about buying from women, shop small businesses, shop women owned. Buy from a Black woman, right? It's an incredible site. Shopin.nyc if you're in a local area. The Luminary Collective, right? It's amplifying others. It's being there for others. And it's really, again, at the heart of why we're here, the heart of why we'll stay is for that customer. In our case, it's our member in our community and every single woman and man that we work with and impact and serve.
That's so important. If you don't have a customer, right, you don't have a business. So it is the core foundation, but yet so many people don't think of it like that. And I'd love to pass it to Alexis because I know that you value the customer so much from a health perspective. And that's why you really spend that time and the ingredients and really curate that to give them the best that they can have. So I'd love to hear from you.
Well, I mean, I actually, ironically, going back a little bit, I actually reached out to Calla because, we, like I had mentioned before, you keep your head down, you're doing like, I'm busy making juices. It's like, what did I miss? How can I be better? Cause I was like, yeah, and I think that's a big piece in not being afraid to ask for help, not being afraid to ask for questions at the risk of sounding like, oh no, am I missing something? Should I have done something better? And I think that's such a big piece of all of this, not being afraid to reach out. So then going back to your question, and like, I sort of sidelined, but
that's okay. So how to make consumers feel brand pride, which I know that you spoke about, highlighting the women who are drinking your juices and, coming from a really healthy, combination to go into your product so that you're having them feel good about what they're having when they join you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back again to that authenticity. What we're highlighting, it's sort of like people who are truly organically already drinking juice, people who believe in our brand already are the ones we're kind of bringing forward as spokespeople. I think that those things kind of flow through the brand already. Bringing in brands. I do a fresh talk on my Instagram for Nekter, and I interview, other business owners because I feel like it's important to understand there's people who lost their home and then, created this incredible bar or whatever it may be. Everyone has an incredible brand story. And those all contain such it's a powerful message to know, not only inspire people, but also to talk about, where you're coming from and why you want to support all of these other brands. So we loop all that into our brand, and then we bring it out, hopefully having more and more women and people of all people coming through and really just, having a pride in carrying a juice, or, a bar that has an incredible story behind it.
And I think with you, you really hone into who your who is and who your why is, and you serve them at the highest level that they can, and you target that. So that's really, really important. So thank you for sharing that. And then Calla, I'd love to throw this to you. This is a question from the audience. As a minority business owner, it's hard to collaborate with other businesses because I fear I'm being used as a photo op. How do you overcome and become more diverse in an authentic way?
Honestly, I think it's a numbers game because unfortunately tokenism like that does exist. And we do know that there are some brands that'll have, suddenly all of their models will look really different during Black History Month and not any other time. And something that we work with all of our businesses is how can you have impact authentically and meaningfully outside of a certain month or a certain campaign. And a lot of that is just making sure that we have representation across the board. And so it's looking at whenever we have, images for a project or spokespeople or participants at the table, making sure that you have representation that is deep and meaningful. I wish I could say that you're not going to be used for a photo op again, but you probably will. Maybe sometimes it's, can you bring somebody that that you would also, another voice, another woman that you want to lift up, another business is owned by a business owner of color that you want to bring into that. I would say just bring the community and also don't be shy of asking. I think a lot of people now are saying, I'll participate in this, but it has to be meaningful. It has to be impactful. And the more all of us say that, the more we will see change quickly. But it's a problem. I don't want to diminish it. It definitely is.
But that was a great answer because it's basically like use that to elevate yourself. Give yourself that ability to be on the forum, to be able to have that voice that maybe you couldn't have, even if it is tokenism, right? It's going to give you an advocate. So that's something that's really, really important. So I hope that they lean in. And this question's for Cate. how do you set fair financial requirements for scholarships? Do you require proof? And how do you choose who gets assistance?
Yeah, great question. So for our scholarships, they are completely free. So for every 10 memberships that are purchased at Luminary, we give away one to a woman in need. Normally that's financial. There's an application for that. They submit that in. We do not require proof. We trust you. You're part of a community. That's also part of who we are. One thing that we do is if you are awarded, and we have both annual and 2-year scholarships, is we ask you to sign what we call a promissory note. It's a financial term, but it is a promise to pay it forward in some way. Right. So whether that after you've received that scholarship, you reach out to mentor someone else, you volunteer, you give to a charity. We want that to become part of their DNA. We've helped them. We want them to help others. We launched late last year for small business owners in particular, for women that have been impacted by COVID. We launched a massive fellowship program that gives away annual fellowships. We've done close to 500 women around the US and abroad. More than 75% have gone to women of color. We know their businesses have been harder hit, and the statistics prove it. And next month, we'll announce one around supporting women that have lost their jobs or have been had to force to cut back their hours. So we really want to understand the challenges that our community faces, and that's our community here in New York and now globally, and how we can support them. So we don't want to create barriers, particularly where they already feel a barrier that they have to apply for something like this. There's no proof. This is a trust factor. And the other thing is we have a code of conduct. Anyone that joins our community is required by that code of conduct. And what we've seen is, the majority of women and men that are part of who our community follow that. And the reality is those that don't are probably not who we want in our community anyway.
No, I think that was great. So thanks, Cate. So as we're getting close to the end, we only have a couple more minutes. I'm going to throw a quick question to Calla. If we have time, we'll go to Cate and circle it back. Okay. So what is the community that you go to for learning or support?
What is the community I go to for learning and support? So for me at Open to All, we have a coalition of 200 plus nonprofits, and they span racial justice, civil rights, gender equality, faith, disability, and so on, like LGBTQ equality. And they are my thought partners. They are my experts. If there is an issue where I feel like I need more information or guidance or thought partnership in any way, I have this incredible coalition to go to at our fingertips. The thing is, if you become a member of Open to All, which is super easy to do, you sign a pledge at opentoall.com. That community is your community too. And so those resources become your resources. And it's really this phenomenal collective effort.
Perfect. Thank you, Calla. Alexis, is there a community that you go to really quickly? We have literally a minute left. I'd love to hear like a quick snippet from you, and we can get to Cate before we wrap up. Where do you go to learn and support?
That's where I'm learning. That's why I reached out to Calla, honestly. And that's the thing. It's like, I think don't be afraid to admit you don't know. We are learning so much. Most of it's just from our consumers and customers and employees. And that's right perfect now.
Because you hit it at home, right? If you don't know, reach out. So there you go. That's the answer, is that you can go to anybody who has that advice. So Cate, you have a quick snippet of where you go really quickly before we transition back?
Yeah, it's all about your network, right? You've got to every day continue to build that network of supporters, of advisors, of mentors, of sponsors, your own community that you live, work, and serve. And don't be afraid to lean on your teams, right? They are equally part of this journey for you. And for many times, they're smarter than you. And so I think for me in particular, I've got a group of amazing men and women that I lean on every day, but at the heart of who we are is my community at Luminary. And if I can't lean on them and they can't lean on me, then what's the point? So I'm blessed to have everyone that surrounds me, but you can always, as Alexis says, learn more and reach out more and tap into more efforts. Don't be shy. Keep your head up, not your head down.
Yes. And I wanted to thank each and every one of you guys for sharing and taking the time to spend with the community. So thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Calla. Thank you, Cate. It was a great and engaging discussion. I'd love to pass it back to Emily for the next session.
Ladies, that was absolutely fantastic. I learned so much great stuff, and I really just appreciate how genuine and authentic you all were. Calla, Alexis, Erica, it's been great. Cate, we'll see you tomorrow. She will be kicking off day 2 with a quick little 10-minute on risk breaking, so you don't want to miss that. And again, just a huge thank you to you ladies for your partnership as well. Erica and your company, EMRG Media, we've loved having your partnership on this event, as well as Cate and Luminary. And a huge thanks to Open to All for all the partnership we've had with you over the years. We really find it so important to be able to connect these resources with our business owners.